you're going to need your understanding word problem packet. We are on page 26, where you should have glued problem number 26 that is connected with the book Chip Off the Old Block. I had you label it number 26. You will also need your map so that you can see the distances that we labeled on the map. Okay. This question says, how many miles longer was the trip from the tower to Dino than the trip from Dino to Rushmore? Okay. Hopefully, this is sounding a little similar to what we did on question 25, except it's worded a little bit differently, right? Again, we have just a one-sentence word problem, but there's a lot of information in here. And when I want you to figure out or answer what do you need to find out, I don't want you guys to write this entire sentence, because that doesn't show that you have an understanding of what's really happening and what needs to be solved. If you just copy this word for word, that's all you're doing. You're not restating it or taking out the most important pieces. So what I do see that it's a question word, right? I see that word how. Many miles longer. This word right here, that word is a clue to me because I see the ER, which is a suffix that does a couple different things, but one of the things that we know that it does is that it makes a word be like a word that we use to compare, such as shorter, longer, cuter, nicer. You know, anytime we add that ER, it makes a word be used so that we can compare something. So when I see that, that to me is a signal like, oh, I think we're going to be comparing something. Let's find out if that would make sense. What might we be comparing? So I see many miles. So how many miles longer was the trip? I see trip here. From the tower to Dino. Than, oh, look at, I see longer than. That definitely tells me that we're comparing. And then the trip from Dino to Rushmore. So I see again that we're comparing two trips. Here's a trip from the tower to Dino and a trip from Dino to Rushmore. So we have trip A and we have trip B. And that just kind of helps me see, rather than repeating the names, the tower to Dino and Dino to Rushmore, I can tell that what we're actually comparing are the mileage of the trips. And this first one is longer. It says how many miles longer was trip A than trip B. So that's what we're wanting to find out, right? We can say how much longer one trip was compared to the other. You see how I didn't rewrite exactly what was here? I figured out a way to put it in my own words, and that really makes me understand that, or makes me know that I understand what's going on in this problem. So what is it that we already know? Well, let's take a look and see what the distance was, what the mileage was from the tower to Dino, and we can abbreviate it like we did last time. Actually, we'll do that down lower. Here we'll still write it out. So tower to Dino, let's see. Here's the tower in Wyoming, and all the way to Dino, we have 1,209 miles. And then Dino to Rushmore, we have 1,117 miles. All right, so to represent this, we can use our bar models again. So I'm going to make sure that I put the longer one on top. So tower to Dino, so we can abbreviate that again. here's my bar model. We have that as 1,209 miles. And then Dino to Rushmore. It's shorter, not by a whole lot, but it's shorter, right? We're definitely not going to have it be the same distance as this bar or too much shorter or longer. So 1,117 miles. And this right here is what we're trying to figure out. So the difference between miles. So we know that we're not going to be joining or combining, right? We're trying to figure out the distance here, okay? We're not joining equal groups, and we're not splitting equal groups. Okay? We're not separating, but instead we're going to be comparing. Still requires the same operation, but it does help us know like which numbers to subtract from. That's why it's important that we know if we're just separating or if we're comparing. So how can we explain this? Here we go. We're gonna use our terminology again. So we're gonna say this problem is comparing the distances of two trips. We can say the trip from, we'll just abbreviate it still, okay? T to D was longer than the trip from D to R. So we will subtract the shorter distance from the longer distance. And then we come full circle saying that this will answer how much longer one trip was compared to the other. This will answer how much longer one trip was compared to the other. There we go. And remember, if you do ever run out of room, you could always finish the writing on sticky notes or on like smaller sheets of paper and just stick it if it's a sticky note, or tape it to where you can just flip it up. So alrighty, so that is understanding word problems number 26. Nice job.